Keir, hello, I've never met you before. Nice to see you. And Tim, old bloke, know him. Okay, so Tim and Keir are going to really, I think, rock the end of this session.
Yeah, I've often been accused of bringing things to a close. Peer workforce. How can peer workers help people navigate to services and experiences that help improve physical health outcomes? And what further supports from services do peer workers require in order to engage more fully with consumers around physical health? And where should physical health peer workers be employed? So 3 quick snapshots. It was around training of the peer workforce. It was around quarantining funding within services to focus and concentrate on physical health. And we had a fantastic, lively discussion, and it was fulsome and it was wholesome. And what came through clearly was the role that we all have to play for the type of statistics that we were shown earlier, that are a damning indictment on not only having a mental illness, but having a death sentence applied to that, and what role we must play. So one of the groups came up with back to community, back to homeless, back to roots, grassroots, back to grassroots consumer movement areas, groups, and to find those in the community who don't want to engage in mental health services, to work with them one-on-one. Tim.
Thanks, Keir. I'm not sure how wholesome it was, but it was a wonderfully productive group there. And sorry if we took up a little bit of the airspace with the group. I'll go back to the first one. I think this is also brings in a bit of a call to action, perhaps to equally well around this idea of funding, which can be PHN, which can be LHDs, which can be whatever, but also it's around, to do this properly, do we need to develop a specific framework for people with lived experience, peer workers working in this holistic way? We want to be holistic, and I think it's really important, but traditionally we're focused on that mental health recovery. And so perhaps we need to invest in the development of really clear guidelines, frameworks around that. I think it's about the second question, which was around this need for developing a tolerance for risk for our workforce, to allow the workforce, I think, to be autonomous, to develop their own program delivery. And at times, I think certainly we need to be leading and running our own services, but perhaps controversially within the movement is that we should be also co-facilitating with clinicians. And in that role, I think there's a great role to educate clinicians into what works for people with lived experience, what are the priorities that people have. I don't know my own experience as a young man developing psychosis and starting on medication was very much that my physical health needs were nothing. They weren't important at all. The focus was on just getting through what was happening in my world, my mental space. I think a lot of us who developed mental health issues in the old days used to say a bit about, I probably won't live till 40 anyway. We had that sort of thing. So it's good that we are living, but not all of us are doing that. And so it's important that we're in there with our stories, walking with people. Where should peer workers be working? We need to be working in our community, not so much in our mental health services. I think that's a given, that we will be there in doctors' surgeries, that we will be there in hospitals, that we will be working for NGOs. But on the outskirts of all of that, we have those places where we interact with you. Mostly lived experience here, but we interact with the general population, all the time. So, where can we work? We can certainly work in, I think one suggestion was, working in universities, working in gymnasiums, where people can come and work with a peer worker who's had that similar experience. But anywhere. We have examples of people already doing this, I think, where people are just going out for walks. I'd love to go out to the Botanic Gardens with some people and plant some trees, do natural physical exercise that keeps me fit, well, sort of fit, but building that into our everyday life, where I think that exercise is a given, that we're doing it in so many natural places. And I think any place where people with lived experience interact with services, or any service, it's everywhere, isn't it, that peer work is appropriate, because everywhere we go, the supermarket, the gym, as we put, the school, the university, we're always interacting with our lived experience with other people. And so it sometimes makes sense that people can share that. So it was a really extraordinary discussion in 3 groups, and we came back together as a large group. But the sense is that this is our work. This is a holistic thing for peer workers, that this is something that we need funding for. It's no good having these ideas. We need funding to build the capacity of the workforce, to go out and say to people who are struggling, you can be a peer worker, you can bring your experiences in here and work with other people, and that services need to be accountable, that funding's being delivered and that it's being spent where it should be on our workforce. People want the no-brainer for peer work is that we want to get better and we want to help other people get better. And I'll draw out a quote. I'm sorry for being too long, Catherine, but well, this is sort of it's poetic, but it's not my words. I was working in Wollongong Mental Health Unit when I first became a peer worker, and a Portuguese, I think it's Portuguese fellow, all those Europeans look the same. He went out to the ward and said, "Hey, everybody, come to Tim's group, come to Tim's recovery group." My grandmother used to say to me, when you're sick, you don't go to the doctor, you go to someone who has got over the sickness. So it's an ancient way of working. It's a way that we've worked prior to our industrial way of living, our focus on capitalism and money and things like that. It's a natural way of working. It's an effective way of working. Thank you.